Aurorasaurus. Interior gift shop, Natural History Museum, day. A cavernous sandstone room with 21st century flourishes, entirely devoid of bright colors. Books, merchandise, signage, all shades of gray, muted greens and sepias. Aurora Irving, 14, gray school blazer, stares transfixed by a stuffed diplodocus on top of a pile of drably colored toys. She looks young for her age, with large, piercing eyes and a pixie-like quality. Interior main hall continuous. Dippy, the long-necked skeleton of a diplodocus, has pride of place in the center of the huge Gothic hall. Angular carvings of plants and animals line the columns, arches, and three-tier staircase. Other fossils occupy the sides of the great hall. Light from the upper levels catches them, highlighting rough textures. Monochrome crowds make their way past gray signage. One large banner reads, "Special event, 4 p.m., Dinosaurs of the North American Plains." Interior gift shop, Natural History Museum. Aurora leans forwards and breathes lightly on the stuffed diplodocus. Her breath shimmers as it hits the toy. A rainbow of bright colors ripples through it, and the toy momentarily lifts, as though to fly, when Barnaby Dunn, 15, obnoxious and overprivileged, spots her from across the room and sneers.
"Miss Mallory!"
Aurora startles, and the stuffed toy quickly resumes its original position and color. Miss Deirdre Mallory, late 50s, spins around like an old army sergeant. She's tall and muscular with skin like crumpled origami, wearing an ankle-length dress and leather gloves.
"Aurora's using her dirty fairy magic, miss."
Don't use the F word, Dunn.
He looks scolded. Half a dozen of their classmates giggle.
Well, did you, girl?
Aurora nods, sheepishly.
Hands.
Aurora steps back, frightened.
Show me your bloody hands, girl.
Aurora puts her hands out reluctantly, eyes to the floor. Mallory pulls off a glove and eyes up her prey. She slams the glove down aggressively as we match cut to Interior Museum Special Exhibit. A crowbar cracks open a car-sized wooden crate. Wider angle on a theatrically lit Gothic exhibition room with walkways hanging just below the ceiling. Children from Aurora's school and others crowd the walkways, leaning over, murmuring with anticipation at what's in the crate on the stone stage below. Aurora winces as she glances at her hand. It's clenched with pain. Holding the crowbar is David SINCLAIR, a laid-back American curator in his late 30s. Ripped jeans, faded gray t-shirt, and a 5 o'clock shadow. Half Indiana Jones, half Axl Rose. SINCLAIR tosses the crowbar to the floor and pulls down the final side of the crate with both hands to reveal a large object wrapped in a dirty cotton tarp. He marches around the room, unwrapping the object, fully aware he's the star of a show 67 million years in the making. He yanks away the final rope, revealing a near-intact iguanodon-like dinosaur skull. The children gasp. Interior alcove, later. An alcove set in an archway off the main hall. It's a quiet, chapel-like oasis away from the noise of the crowd behind. Aurora stares at a display of large, pill-bug-like fossils, all set in a single slab of slate. The sign next to them reads, Trilobites, Devonian period, 400 million years. She breathes gently onto 3 of the fossils closest to her. As her shimmery breath makes contact, they stir, coming to life. The trilobites glimmer an iridescent blue and scuttle across the surface, clamoring over their long-extinct brothers and sisters, eye stalks exploring this alien world. Aurora stares back, intrigued and grateful. After less than a minute, the trilobites start to slow, their color fading, before they slowly ease back into the rock, petrifying a few feet from where they started.
Aurora Irving, come with me.
Mallory grabs Aurora's wrist and yanks her back to the group. Interior, main hall. SINCLAIR stands in front of a large, upright iguanodon-like skeleton, answering questions from the crowd of children.
Mantellisaurus atherfieldensis, but I call it Manti for short.
Iris, 7, and from another school, timidly raises her hand. SINCLAIR nods, cracking a gentle smile. Go ahead.
What, did they look like?
SINCLAIR crouches in front of an illustrated museum sign.
Fantastic question. Well, we can't know for sure. But if you look here, We think they looked a bit like a stood-up crocodile.
Iris smiles and nods. That'll do.
Why would you say that?
Another great question. Well, the muscles created tiny notches where...
But they used all 4 legs. And they had feathers. Big, bright, colorful feathers.
Mallory grabs Aurora's wrist. Barnaby giggles smugly.
That's enough, Aurora. She'll be dealt with.
It's okay, ma'am. We encourage questions here. A scientist, eh? There are some unsubstantiated theories about feathers, but those are hogwash.
Interior balcony, later. A stone balcony high above the hall. Glass cases display moth-eaten models of the common ancestors of fairies and humans. Aurora sits on the marble floor, leaning against the stone balustrades. She's clearly been crying.
Are you, one of the Fae folk?
Thanks for not using the F word.
I liked your feathered mantisaurus. The color sounded pretty.
Aurora nods.
I wish I could see one.
Aurora smiles apologetically. Her eyes light up as it grows into an idea.
You know Fae can grant wishes?
Iris's face lights up. She did know, but she'd forgotten. Aurora grabs Iris's hand as she stands up, a mischievous smile as wide as her face. Interior, main hall. Aurora bolts down the central stairwell, dragging Iris along. They reach the bottom and run towards the Mantellosaurus. Aurora throws Iris a look. Shall I? Iris nods. Game on. Suddenly energized, Aurora tilts her head back to the sky, arms spread wide as she inhales a body full of air. She exhales, engulfing the skeleton in her shimmering breath. Flesh, then sinews, then a rainbow of feathers grow as the Mantellosaurus rips away from the rods that held it in place. It lets out a bellow like a grieving elephant. The crowd scatters, screaming. Iris claps with delight. Aurora sprints down to the trilobites, taking another body full of breath as she slides towards them. She breathes over the entire archaic floor and they scatter across the hall. Aurora runs across the hall and reanimates creature after creature, Iris trailing behind her at every step, gleeful. The creatures are vibrant and colorful and unrestrained. They fly, crawl, leap, unbound after an eternity of extinction. Several trilobites run up Barnaby's trouser leg. He wriggles, jumping from foot to foot as he tries to shake them off. SINCLAIR ushers museum visitors out of the main hall. He turns back to catch one last awestruck glance. Aurora stops to take a breath. Her face, pure joy, freed at last from the shame and self-censorship. She realizes she's standing directly under Dippy's still skeletal tail. Through its legs, she sees Mallory stands rigid as a statue in front of the entrance, looking on in horror at the Technicolor chaos. Aurora looks to Iris, then at Dippy. Her face softens. She tilts her neck back and fills every pocket of her body with air. The air shimmers even as she breathes in. She exhales. Blackout.